Hey everyone, Ahsoka is over, and now it is time to get into ship theory. And no, I don't mean the ghost, I mean romantic theory. Today I'm going to go over the top 3 that fans have been theorizing about since the show started, and the ones that have the greatest likelihood of happening if they do. And with that in mind, let me first start by saying there's a very strong possibility that there will be no romantic relationships in the Ahsoka series at all. So temper your expectations. It's fun to theorize about these relationships, but there's a good chance that none of them will happen. However, it's not impossible. Kanan and Hera did actually have a relationship on Star Wars Rebels, partly because other creatives really rooted for it. So there's definitely a good chance it could happen on Ahsoka as well. And we also have to keep in mind the Mandoverse heir to the Empire theory. And I'll leave a link below of my other YouTube video that talks about that. And I'll get a little bit into that too in this video. So the first ship we're going to talk about is called Sabezra, and that is Sabine and Ezra. Now, this is the ship that's been going on the longest because the Sabine and Ezra were characters of Star Wars Rebels, and that preceded Ahsoka. So there's already been fans that have shipped them or thought they would end up together. So this is kind of a continuation of that. The evidence that fans cite for this possible theory is that Sabine has been doing what Ezra has wanted him to do, which is look over the planet of Lothal in his absence. And Sabine is completely dedicated to finding Ezra. It's why she makes a decision to go with Baylan and Shin in the series Ahsoka. So we know Sabine obviously cares very much for Ezra. She loves Ezra. But, the question is whether or not it's romantic. So the theories that point against Sabine and Ezra being a relationship is that while Ezra definitely was kind of flirty about her in the early seasons of Star Wars Rebels, Sabine has never really returned that affection or shown that she had any romantic interest in him. Now, that could change, of course, but so far we haven't really seen any evidence of that. There's also the fact that in the first episode of Ahsoka, Ezra says that she's like a sister to him. Now, some fans say that this is him trying to deflect a little bit. He doesn't want Sabine to feel pressured, but it could very well be that he does think now of Sabine as a sister figure. And also the Star Wars databank, in its official listing also says that Sabine regards Ezra as a brother. Even so, all of that could change. Sabine could fall in love with Ezra. We know Ezra did have a thing for her, at least initially. But since it's one of the longest running romantic theories on the show, it has to be the first one that we talk about. Personally, I do think they are leaning more into the sibling aspect of Sabine and Ezra, like Luke and Leia. They're both learning, are Jedi or practicing to be Jedi in the case of Sabine. But again, I could be wrong, and they could have a relationship, or they could have no relationship whatsoever. Now we go on to the second most popular ship, and the one that has a lot of theorizing behind it, and that is Wolfwren. Now, that one may not seem too apparent from the name, but it's actually for Shin Hati and for Sabine Wren. So the wolf part comes from Hati's last name, which is the wolf from Norse mythology that chases the moon. So wolf and then Wren for Sabine Wren. Now, there's 2 reasons to back up this particular theory. One is the Mandoverse theory, the heir to the Empire theory. So that's the theory that says that Filoni and Favreau are telling the story of heir to the Empire, but using characters from The Mandalorian and Ahsoka to tell that story. And so that means that Din and Bo are Han and Leia respectively, Ahsoka is Luke, or alternatively, there are other characters who could represent Luke, perhaps Ezra, perhaps Sabine and Ezra collectively. And with that in mind, there has to be a character who's the Mara Jade. And the most popular theory is that Shin Hati is going to be the Mara Jade of the Mandoverse story. In other words, she'll start out as an enemy who works for a Darksider user, maybe not the Emperor in this case, but Baylan Skoll. Even though Baylan and Shin aren't totally dark side, but they have obviously dabbled in dark side magic or Jedi Force, dark side forces. And so what that means is there's going to be something of an enemies to lovers kind of romantic trope here, with Shin Hati being the Mara Jade of the story. So why do we have Shin with Sabine in particular? Well, because they are focused on quite heavily in the early episodes of the series. And they fight a lot together. They have a lot of meaningful, long looks together. It definitely seems like Shin and Sabine are being set up for a relationship of some kind, even if it's not romantic. So I think there is something to this theory. Again, it may not be romantic, but I could definitely see why fans would go that route. And even I can see it happening. I'm very skeptical if it will, like any of these romantic theories, but I can definitely see why fans think it has a strong possibility. And it's kind of hard to ignore. There are definitely some Rey and Kylo parallels in Shin and Sabine, not just the enemies to lovers, but in some of the fight scenes themselves. If Shin Hati is the Mara Jade of the Mandoverse, then that could point to Sabine Wren possibly filling the role of Luke, or partly of the role of Luke, maybe just the romantic aspect of that story, as for having an enemies to lover kind of story in which Shin Hati switches sides, joins Sabine, and they all work to fight Thrawn together. Now that's going to lead into the third and final popular ship theory, which is for Shin and Ezra, and that one is called Shinezra. So this one is still based on the Mandoverse theory of heir to the Empire. Again, same thing, it's just going to be based on the fact that Shin Hati is the Mara Jade, and Ezra will be kind of the Luke figure in the story. And so what a lot of fans point to is the line where Ezra asks Sabine, well, who is that? And, referring to Shin. And Sabine says, she's just like you without your sense of humor. So that, it's a kind of a small thing, but again, it's something that fans point to as a possibility that Ezra and Shin could eventually down the road have a relationship. Again, we're going back to that heir to the Empire theory. And right now, it kind of just goes both ways, Shin and Ezra or Shin and Sabine. Currently, I see Shin and Sabine having a little bit more to go on with the construction of the story itself. And currently, right now, Ezra's not even on Peridea anymore. He's in the main galaxy, whereas Shin and Sabine and Ahsoka will be stuck together on Peridea, which kind of creates more space for Shin to interact with Sabine. Again, this is not an exhaustive list of any possible ship for the Ahsoka series. There's obviously going to be dozens of them, but this is just an overview of the top 3 that, if they happen, would have the greater chance of happening. If. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think there will be any romantic storylines in Ahsoka? And if there are, which ones would be more likely to happen? Let me know, and may the Force be with you.